This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Hosted by Katie Milkman, an award-winning behavioral scientist and author of the best-selling book, How to Change, Choiceology is a show about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Hear true stories from Nobel laureates, authors, athletes, and everyday people about why we do the things we do. Listen to Choiceology at schwab.com/podcast or wherever you listen.
In case you haven't heard, it's officially in Abercrombie summer. The A&F Vacation Shop has everything on your packing mood board. I desperately need their new one piece, the A&F Marina. It's strapless, so flattering, and paired with denim shorts will be my go-to beach outfit this summer. Finally, your suitcase isn't complete without finding that dress. You know, the one for the photo shoot. Abercrombie's boho dresses have that perfect beachy, romantic look. Make it an Abercrombie summer. Shop their newest arrivals in-store, online, and in the app.
You actually created something that is really arousing for you. I just want to congratulate you on that. It created some disappointment and misery, but also there were a lot of moments of excitement.
Welcome to How To. I'm Carvell Wallace. You may have already figured it out from the title, but today's episode about finding your kink is probably not safe for work, depending on where you work, I suppose. But a more important heads up is that we do talk in passing about sexual trauma. So if this one isn't for you, then please take care, and we'll see you next week. So we've done a number of episodes on sex over the years. I mean, this is an advice show, and it probably won't surprise you that sex advice is something that a lot of people, are seeking. And the main takeaway from most of those episodes is that you need to prioritize pleasure. Sex should feel good, it should feel nourishing, it should feel connecting. But what if your desire is a little more taboo? Is there a world in which you can find consenting partners who are willing to explore and play? Well, that's what my friend is here to learn.
I'm Lily, and what brings me here today is just a desire to understand better what I'm into. I feel like I just want to have more pleasure and more satisfying connections with people, but I think I have a hard time trying to articulate to people what I'm into because there's just so many contradictory things and so much complexity.
The problem Lily has is that she kind of knows what she wants, but in the past, getting those needs met has been messy, to say the least.
The actual sex that we were having was relatively vanilla sex, but the backdrop of everything that was happening was just total chaos. We were basically ruining each other's lives in real ways. And there was just this constant power play where, it's just both of us trying to be the one who had the power. There wasn't a lot of clarity on what was real and what wasn't.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like what you're saying is that part of what was exciting about that scenario was the sense of chaos, power, confusion, maybe danger. Is that fair to say? Uh-huh.
Yes. There was so much love and sweetness and stability and commitment, but we were also hated each other and we were about to leave, just this feeling of total devotion and chaos. So it's just kind of everything that it was, it also wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So why did that stop working for you? In other words, why isn't it just great, let's just continue doing that until it can no longer be done?
We did it for 3 years and we were literally destroying each other's lives. This person had another partner and they had a baby and I have a kid. Whenever we were connected, things would just start to unravel in big ways. And, neither one of us, I think, wanted all these other people to be impacted. It was yes, we were consenting to it, but it felt the other people in our lives, aren't. And so we can't totally, have fun. It would just get out of control.
Mm. It sounds like it was exciting and dangerous. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've had trouble sort of finding that excitement without that danger or messiness.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yes. It's been so hard to find anything that compares. I just have so much that's in the mix. I have 2 businesses and I'll be dating 10 people and I'm building a tiny house. I can hold so incredibly much. And it's just like there's parts of me that just don't even get touched. And I feel like, it's been very challenging.
So Lily is excited by the feeling of danger, of unpredictability, and chaotic devotion. But understandably, she doesn't really want to destroy her life or other people's lives to get those feelings. So she wanted to see if there was a safer way, which naturally led her to explore more structured forms of kink.
I have worked with a couple of DOMs, and then I have also gone to some sex parties with lots of different people there, and then also, like, a friend of mine and I started one, and we just kind of meet with people, and it's kind of process group meets play party. And then I've had some partners that I've experimented with a little bit, and then just a lot of exploration through my mind.
The problem is she's run into kind of a Goldilocks situation. Too much chaos is hot, but ultimately harmful. But too much discussion and boundary setting feels safe, but maybe a little boring.
I don't like knowing that it's not real. Like I said, the sex we were having was not totally vanilla, but it was just kind of this whole drama, this whole story like that was behind it. And whenever I get into situations where I'm like trying to create something, it's just always incredibly disappointing and boring to me. And I just end up being like super bratty and terrible. And people are like, I don't even want to play with you. Like, this isn't fun,
So on today's show, we want to talk about how to understand and safely explore the weirder and more difficult to explain aspects of your sexuality. And we want to help Lily communicate what she wants, and we want to help her get it. And for that, we're bringing in 2 very qualified experts.
I'm Celeste Hirschman, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Somatica Institute of Sex and Relationship Coaching.
I'm Dr. Danielle Harel, and I'm the other co-founder of the Somatica Institute, and we are excited to be here.
Celeste and Danielle are sex coaches who help train sex coaches. But they are also scholars of human pleasure, and they have written a number of books across the spectrum of sexuality. And they've spent a lot of time thinking about the complex things that turn us on and how we can communicate those needs and find partners to help us satisfy those desires. So whether you're just starting to think generally about how to explore new things in your sex life, or if you, like Lily, are trying to zero in on specific and hard to understand desires, Celeste and Danielle are here to tell you exactly how to get what you need. Don't go anywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Choiceology, an original podcast from Charles Schwab. Choiceology is a show all about the psychology and economics behind our decisions. Each episode shares the latest research in behavioral science and dives into themes like, can we learn to make smarter decisions, and the power of do-overs. The show is hosted by Katie Milkman. She's an award-winning behavioral scientist, professor at the Wharton School, and author of the best-selling book, How to Change. In each episode, Katie talks to authors, historians, athletes, Nobel laureates, and everyday people about why we make irrational choices and how we can make better ones to avoid costly mistakes. Listen and subscribe at schwab.com/podcast or find it wherever you listen.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. I'm going to do that again. This podcast is brought to you by insurance. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Welcome back. So kink is a complicated subject because what even is a kink? Like, the generally agreed upon definition is anything you consider arousing that isn't conventional, which you can already see is kind of ridiculous because what is and isn't conventional changes wildly with time and cultural context. But the one thing we do know is that people have been into all kinds of things for a very long time. Evidence of impact play, group sex, and other forms of pleasure considered deviant can be found in the artwork and remnants of ancient civilizations. And in modern times, the sexual revolution helped usher in a resurgence of exploration, aided by kink's prevalence in the LGBTQ+ community, and later the internet's increased access to porn. Film and books have always explored kink, but more recently, movies like 2002's Secretary and its more mainstream counterpart, 2010's 50 Shades of Grey, helped thrust kink elements like BDSM and power play into the mainstream. So now, pretty much everyone knows what doms and subs are, and everyone knows what it means to call someone daddy. But just because more of us know about kink doesn't mean that we understand it. And that's where sex coaches like Celeste and Danielle come in.
We kind of help people understand exactly these kinds of things, what arouses them, how they can get them for themselves. Maybe in your case specifically, Lily, how you can kind of move it from life into the bedroom. And I know you said one of the challenges with that was the authenticity piece. And I can see why it would be hard for you to communicate what it is that you need, because it is complex. But I think it's possible to get it authentically from someone, but they would need to have that sort of ability to just take you one place and switch you somewhere else and leave you very uncertain in terms of what was going to happen next, and take charge, and also be ready and willing for you to switch around the power play on them. Like you said, there's that aspect, that the embracing of that part of yourself that is kind of bratty and wants the struggle, wants the fight.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And I think it is hard to communicate it. I think that's the challenging part, right? I know I'm very complex like that too, Lily. I have a lot of complex desires, and it's much harder to communicate. It's much harder to find lovers that will understand the complexity of it. But I do think that I'm also hearing like the pain that you're experiencing when it's also like so challenging in life. And I think it is possible to move it to the bedroom. And what we want to do is help crystallize with you what are the feelings that are really important for you to feel. Because, in Somatica, we talk about core desires, and we talk about why bother. Like that's what we bother, because we have feelings that we want to feel. And we want to explore with you what are those feelings and get very crystal clear on that. So you'll be able to communicate it and see what are the acts that are needed in order to meet those feelings.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about core desire. I think for a lot of people, and I would include myself in this, it's like we don't really know what our core desires are. We just sort of know when they're being met and when they're not. But the idea of being able to sort of isolate and inventory them and identify them and communicate them is a lot of work. Can you talk a little bit about how you walk people through that process?
So the process is actually, firstly, like listen to somebody's fantasies or what really turns them on, and then break it down into the feelings. And you might already have some sense, just as you're talking about your experiences. You hear chaos, you hear, I think, uncertainty, you hear power, fighting for a different kind of power. Lily, I don't know if those three that I named kind of hit the nail on the head, but you might have a sense of some of the feelings that you want to have.
Yeah, definitely. I want uncertainty, but I also want predictability. I want to feel out of control, and I also want to feel totally in control. I want to feel disrespected, and I also want to feel completely adored and attended to and committed to, and I want to have all the attention on me and take up all the space, and I want to have no attention at all.
So I love that Celeste and Danielle brought up this idea of core desires because it's central to the way we understand our pleasure. What are the feelings that you are really looking for, that really turn you on? Is it to feel powerful, to feel powerless, to feel devoted, to feel ignored? Learning this about yourself is a key part of understanding how to create scenes that work for you. And one good way to go about this is to think about a time that you were really turned on. I mean, engines fully revving. What feelings did you have in that scenario? What physical and emotional reactions were you experiencing? The work is about knowing yourself so you can know what to ask for and how to get it. And the reason this is important is because those desires are probably not going away. They are part of you.
Core desires are not something that we choose. They are formed in our childhood, and they are a reaction to some wounds that we have in our childhood. And that's our longing to play with those materials and to be able to gain a sense of control. On the one hand, we see people play with that and just want to have the opposite experience that they had around the wound. For example, if someone was ignored, they want to feel completely the center of attention, and they want to feel completely like ravished and maybe explored or seen. Yeah. But the other pathway can also be repetition with agency. So they would want to feel ignored, but know that that's something that they're doing with agency. They're choosing it. That gives some sort of power to the experience, because we want to play with those experiences was painful for us. And that's what you're talking about. You want to, we totally see like the two pathways that you want to play with. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in our minds, it's not at all contradictory that you would want seemingly opposite things, because one of them is the resolution and one of them is the repetition with agency. And I think also there could be something really powerful in explaining to somebody that you kind of want to flip. You want to be flipped between them. Like there's like a time when you want to feel safe, and then maybe suddenly, boom, it's dangerous again.
Yeah, I do definitely like the flip. And I think there's also something around like disappointment. I want to be pleased so desperately, and then I have no hope that I'm actually going to be pleased. And it's almost like I go into situations just knowing that I'm going to be disappointed. And so I think there's something, there as well that I just want to throw in.
We're like nodding here to each other because it's one of your core themes that you are playing with, this core desire to play with the two sides of the disappointment, the longing to have that perfect experience, and then the disappointment when it's not happening. The challenge that you're having is that you don't feel agency around the disappointment. You don't feel like you're choosing it. You feel like it's happening again, and I think like seeing that that's something maybe that you can play with in a more agentive way can help you gain some sort of exploration around the topic.
And I have to tell you, disappointment kind of turns me on. There's a freedom in it. Mm-hmm. And so if I imagine for a moment that I'm your lover, is that okay with you, Lily?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So imagine for a moment that I'm your lover, and I know for sure that I'm going to disappoint you. But there's something about me knowing that almost, there's a little bit of evil in it. I don't know. Tell me if what I'm saying kind of turns you on.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose you.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of turn on. And I had an experience recently. It was my birthday. I told a group that I wanted them to come over, and I just wanted to basically just be disappointed and have them continue to try to please me. I wanted to tear everybody apart and just be cruel and let them know, because that's what I felt inside. I was like, this is so fucking disappointing. They were going to, give me this experience of doming me. And I was like, there's absolutely no way that any one of you can dom me. I just know it. And I wanted to just be in that energy. But everybody, I think, was people were disengaged and we're clearly not going to be able to please you. And that's what I wanted. I wanted everyone to continue to just try to please me. That partner that I was speaking about earlier, they would just work their ass off. And I fucking loved it. It made me feel so powerful to just know that there was this person that was going to come and work for me. And I would just be okay, it's not enough. It's never enough. It's not good enough, And, I think it was
God,
yeah.
You just need some good Olympic athlete that likes to.
Exactly.
But what you're saying sounds so hot to both of us here.
We're mostly turned on actually for completely different reasons. Like, Paul is turned on because she's like you and she likes people to work really hard for her.
And also to correct them all the time. Yeah.
And I'm turned on because I am a hard worker. I do like to really please someone, but there's also some like part of it in me that's kind of feels like if you were like disappointed and frustrated with me, I would just like smile at you. Just be like, I know, baby, you're so disappointed. I know you wish I could do it even better and it sucks. Get mad about it. I will stay engaged with you while you are as disappointed as you are. I will not leave you alone in that. I'll keep trying or I'll stop trying, depending, but I'm not going to desert you, you know?
That's what I want is like, I want to be so fucking difficult and just have somebody not go away and just stay with me and not be overwhelmed either. I don't like feeling like I'm overwhelming people. That's not a turn on to me at all.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about working through trauma and finding safe, consenting partners. Stay with us.
Hiring shouldn't be a hassle or a drain on your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way they staff key projects and initiatives. Upwork's global marketplace is filled with top talent in IT, web dev, AI, design, admin support, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you can connect with freelancers and easily hire them. Upwork makes the entire process simpler and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com.
If you've listened to the How To podcast for a while, then you know how important acceptance is when it comes to personal growth. And do you know who else is big on acceptance? Discover. You see, Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. That's a whole lot of places and a whole lot of acceptance, which is great for Discover, but even better for you. Based on the 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/creditcard. This episode is brought to you by Defender. Naturally capable and expedition ready, the Defender 110 is a vehicle built for the modern explorer. The Defender is a vehicle that looks tough because it is tough. With an exterior designed for optimum durability, the Defender has the endurance to take you further and tackle the extremes with confidence. Its 3D surround cameras with clear sight ground view let you see what's underneath the vehicle and anticipate obstacles and rough terrain, while its clear sight rear view provides an unobstructed view behind the car even when the back window is blocked. Plus, it's not only capable, it's comfortable. The Defender 110 has 5 seats with the option of 7 and features rich materials to ensure your journey is as luxurious as it is exciting. Purpose-built and courage-driven, the Defender is the vehicle that you need for your next great adventure. The Defender family also features the 2-door Defender 90, the Defender 110, and the Defender 130, which seats up to 8. Design your Defender 110 at LandRoverUSA.com. Visit LandRoverUSA.com to learn more about the Defender 110. Explore the Defender 110 at LandRoverUSA.com. Before we get back to the show, we are always looking for new questions to tackle, and we'd love to hear your conundrums, big and small. So please send them to us at howto@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-495-4001. Okay, back to my conversation with advice seeker Lily and Celeste and Danielle, 2 sex coaches who founded the Somatica Institute. I know in my own experience, I have historically, kind of like Lily, the way that you said that your kink desires have played out in real relationships in ways that have caused real damage and that you're trying to find a way to put those in a safe place. My own dating experience has been similar to what you described in terms of like, I historically have tended to date people who were very difficult to please. And then I've like just tried to kill myself to be the greatest partner that ever was. But I only have tried to do it with people who will never be happy with, right? And so in real life, that's caused actual like damage for me, problems in my other relationships with my family, as I turn inside out to try and be this pleasing person, right? So it's like, that comes from my own childhood and wanting to please and feeling like I need to please in order to be loved. And so wanting to do that is like a core desire, to use the terminology here, but it also in real life has caused trouble. And so I think the question that I'm getting at is, how does Lily find people that are willing to do that, but it's safe for them to do that? How do you go about finding someone who's able to engage in this form of play that can be hurtful, harmful, wounding, or re-trigger wounds? But how does she recognize whether or not they're safe to do that with, or it's safe for them?
Well, firstly, like I want to start with you owning yourself, and we can see what the name for it is, but like to me, it's kind of the archetype of the brat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I want it all, and I want to be able to complain, and I want you to keep trying, and I want to, get upset about it and get mad. You'll put me in a corner because I'm bad, but then you'll bring me back out and take really good care of me. Like actually, like play out that whole fantasy of the brat. Does that land for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think taking ownership for it and not feeling like there's anything wrong, like there's no shame in your brattiness, none whatsoever. It's beautiful, it's sexy, it's hot. And if you can sort of be like, okay, I'm walking around in my body as the brat, and I'm going to find somebody who really wants to play with a brat, because there are people who really want to play. You are not alone in being a brat. There are plenty of brats out there.
Yeah, there's a whole term for that. It's called a brat, and people know that, right? So it's definitely, you're not alone out there. And there are many people who love to train brats.
I think like the other piece is that I feel like I have a strong kind of like dommy mommy thing that happens. And if I pick up that there's anything going on with the other person, that they're like weak or vulnerable or sort of like incapable in any way, then I switch into this other mode like very, very easily. I was just connected with this dom recently, and when we were together, I could feel things like trauma and things in his body. And I started like asking him about it. And then he started being really vulnerable with me and sharing all these things that like he like quote unquote hadn't shared with anybody before. And, he started being really vulnerable and making it hard for me to let go and really like trust that this person could hold me. And then like I'm testing them to see if they can hold all my brattiness. And it's like the answer that I've come up with is like, no, they can't.
I feel like it's worth pointing out here, from what I know of you, it seems that that's a role that you play a lot in your life outside of sex play, right? That the role of like being the facilitator, the person who holds space, the person who creates space, the person who manages things, the person who starts businesses, who invites people in. And so it feels like it might be quite automatic for you to slip into that mode when you sense that your play partner is like needing that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to thank your Dommy mommy. She comes in to protect you from disappointment, right? That's a helper who doesn't want to actually feel all of the pain of your childhood, which was constant disappointment in people not being able to meet you and maybe scolding you or shaming you for how you were. There's something about like seeing this Dommy mommy and maybe thanking her for trying to save you and protect you from this, but also saying like, this person is not going to do it perfectly, but trust that they're adults, that you've made an agreement with them, instead of just like, oh, too bad. I guess they can't really do it. I'm going to have to go into my caretaker mode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You like vetting, you like almost pushing them to their vulnerable states to make sure that they, can hold you and be strong to hold you. But everyone has trauma and pain, even DOMs and even people that look tall and big, they still not going to have it all together and not going to do it perfectly. And I feel like you're looking for that person who will never fuck up. And as Celeste said, that's like the protective part of you that's doing it. And I think you're kind of trying to figure out, will they be able to hold me? Are they big enough to hold me? Instead of saying like, hey, maybe they can just like hold me for that experience, and that will be good enough. And I don't have to dig into all their challenges and prove that they cannot hold me.
Yeah.
This is an important note. In order for play to work, there must be trust and consent. You have to trust that your partner will only agree to what is safe for them, and you have to do the same for yourself. And after that, the rest of it is a conversation, an ongoing negotiation to create an experience that everyone involved is enjoying, which also means that you can stop it at any time.
I'm like thinking a lot about how so much of this is about that fear of abandonment and like, you know, that I don't want people to leave. And so that's part of why I want to be so pleasing, you know, but I don't really want to be pleasing, you know? So it's like, I want to push back and I want to be disagreeable and I want to be difficult, you know, but I don't want anyone to go away. And that's part of the like push pull where I'm like, you know, can I be this wretched, you know, like, you know, and like, and still be, you know, have everyone stay.
It's brave, actually. It's brave to stay wretched. Like, I know I have abandonment trauma also, and that pleaser comes in really strongly for me as well. And so to be difficult, right, is intense. So I guess I firstly want to say I'm proud of you for letting yourself be difficult. It's not an easy thing to do if you have abandonment trauma. So good for you. Yes.
Thank you.
And then maybe that's a good place for like a safe word or a yellow is if you feel like you're like to set up beforehand, if you feel like your dom is going away, because when we have abandonment trauma, we scan for the threat. We see it even if it's not there. And so for you to have a way to check on it during the scene and to say like, yellow, like I'm feeling you pulling away. Is that real? What, you know, what do we need? Like, can you come towards me again? That feels like it needs to be a safety point for you, so that the mommy doesn't come in.
That resonates.
I'm thinking a lot about listeners here who want to go into spaces where there's maybe been harm in childhood or before, and they feel like there's an arousal there and they want to explore that arousal, but they want to do it in a safe place. I want to talk a little bit about the risk that maybe a lot of people feel, the fear they feel that if they go into that space and it doesn't work out, the partner isn't up for it, the experiment fails, that they actually end up further wounded and re-traumatized. How do you talk to people about that risk?
Yeah, I actually don't think that people end up further wounded or traumatized. I think it's just touches those edges. And when people go in an aware way and play with those materials, part of the process is to talk with partners about that and to talk about like, what is it that we're exploring? It has a potential to work out and succeed, but also have the safe words in the process and say, hey, it's actually, I went too deep. It's not really working for me, and be able to pause and do some sort of like a recovery, you know, like a nurturing moment in that moment and reconnect.
And there is so much boundary work that I think needs to go into this beforehand, because there can be situations where you're connecting with someone and you're really missing each other. And then it can go into a negative spiral where it's doing more bad than good, right? But I do feel like there's so much healing potential in there. Like what we really do in Somatica is we help people listen to that inner voice. I think so often when you turn up the volume on the inner voice, you kind of know, like, oh, this is actually positive for me, or this is detrimental to me. And the more that you fine tune that voice that can make that discernment, that actually this is sort of helping me process my trauma as opposed to sort of like keeping me in it.
And it doesn't mean we can't try, but also when we're trying, maybe it's better to dip our toe as opposed to throw ourselves in altogether right away and see like, oh, maybe we'll do a mini experience and see how that works. Maybe we'll then like see, oh, that's can be a good match. It sounds like we are able to listen to each other and like not like take it in steps and start instead of trying to create like a full-blown experience that will touch all the desires and the feelings that you want to feel.
Because anybody can call themselves a dom. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, this is the problem. This is a major problem.
Exactly. Everyone is a skilled dom, and not everyone is a dom that a dom is not just a function. They also have core desires. So if their core desires don't play well with your core desires, everyone kind of intuitively pushes toward to get their core desires met. So it's really important to check, if your core desires are aligned and if you're actually going to be playing well with each other.
You said this thing about listening to the quieter inner voice, and I think that's valuable advice in so many ways, but I'm curious, Celeste and Danielle, how do you teach people to do that?
Well, yeah, and I specifically said turn up the volume on that.
Turn up the volume.
Right? Because it can be really quieted, especially if we have trauma in our history, it can cause us to question ourselves, even almost like gaslight ourselves. Well, they said they were a dom, so I should trust them or believe in them. Whereas if we go much slower, as Danielle said, and we start take a step and see, okay, so let's just see how this person, gives me like a slight punishment verbally, like you've been very bad right now and you're going to be punished. Do I like their tone of voice? Do I feel safe with them? Am I aroused by it, or do I feel a little bit disconnected? Turning up the volume means really slowing things down and paying attention to your moment to moment feelings and believing in them and not questioning, oh, well, maybe it'll get better. I should probably try to trust more. These are the ways that we talk ourselves out of our feelings. And that puts us in more dangerous, compromised situations. Whereas if we okay, maybe I'm wrong, but who cares? I'm going to err on the side of caution and of listening to that inner voice than erring on the side of talking myself out of it. Maybe our inner voice is only right 90% of the time. That's good. That's a great number, right? Even if we miss out on 10% of these amazing experiences because we listened and it wasn't right, it's still worth it because it will help us take better care of ourselves. So we need to listen carefully to that inner voice and not talk ourselves out of it, and say, you know what, I'm having some uncertainty or some dissonance here. I need to take a pause and see how I feel.
Yeah, I think for me, a big turning point in my own healing was when I started listening to that voice that you're talking about and turning it up. And there's definitely this strong kind of heady part that comes in and is well, you do like to feel unsafe, and maybe this is just creating all these stories and things that make it okay, but actually my body's no way, this is not. And all the time, the body and intuition, I find it it knows. I always know, my body always knows.
And that's brilliant, Lily. That's exactly true. Because when you were a kid, there was no one there that helped you feel like your body knows, and you had to tell yourself story. This was essential for you to survive the experiences that you had growing up. You had to create a little bit of an alternative reality for yourself to survive it. But now you see oh, actually, when I'm listening to my body knows what is true for me and what is right for me. And that's very powerful. And glad you talked about it, because your body knows, and trusting your body is really amazing. And I'm so delighted that you are doing it,
Yeah.
And get in the habit of wait, head, body. Let me check with my body.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's part of my turn on is definitely all of that confusion that comes. And it's it takes a lot for me to feel confused, because I can cope with so much chaos and so much confusion. And the person that was kind of programming me during that time was just really brilliant and really fucking complex and really all these things, all these really complicated and difficult things. And I became such an expert at coping with all of it. And so I feel in some ways it's hard to find people who can hang with that level of creating the type of chaos and complexity and brilliance and, all the things. It's you know what I mean? It just is I want that confusion in my head. I want the gaslighting, but I also want, it's I don't know. It just feels so many things. Sometimes I feel a little hopeless that I'll be able to find it.
No, you love the mind fuck.
Yes.
Right? Yes, it helps to have somebody who has that level of intelligence and, maybe narcissism to take you there.
Yes, definitely.
But then there are challenging ramifications. And I do feel it's probably, there's a longer process. And maybe you don't want to do this. I know you sort of wish that it just comes naturally. But usually to really get what we want, we do have to kind of teach someone what it means for us to have someone gaslight us or mind fuck us in that particular way. And maybe even, if you sort of wrote down some like ways in which that happened for you that really, really turned you on. I feel like there's this fear that it won't feel authentic, but if you give this person a little bit of a story, and some people can own it, even if it's sort of their natural way of being, they might lay it up and be like, oh yeah, like I get it, but if you don't give them a little bit more content to help you, it might be hard for them to really get the depth of what you're hoping for.
I think there's a part of me that, I could never actually surrender to these situations that like weren't actually safe because, I don't actually want to be unsafe. I don't actually want to like have my life ruined, so.
That's fantastic. You have this, like, you know it in your gut that you don't want it. And that's your guide, this is your oracle that moves you around. So I'm really delighted to hear it.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about Lily's specific desires here, but what about you out there who is just at the beginning of this journey, who is just on the precipice of doing things maybe a little differently than you consider normal? Where do you start?
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of BDSM and kink communities, and I would say you definitely want to do the same kind of toe dipping, like take a basic class, or organizations where you can kind of do like a meet and greet and start to meet people. I think you probably don't want to just dive directly into like some kind of BDSM play party, for example. I would take myself there just like to watch and observe and see what's going on and not maybe play the first time around, because you want to give yourself time to absorb and start to feel into what you like instead of just sort of like, oh, let me just try everything, So I would definitely say like taking it slowly is really, really important and helpful.
Yeah. And it is possible. It is possible. I think a lot like Lily, I think a lot of us relate to the feeling of like my desires are so twisted and weird and confused by my bizarre childhood that I don't really know no one could possibly understand them. But it sounds like what you're saying is that if we can sort of isolate and learn how to understand and communicate our core desires, then we can do a better job at maybe even finding people who understand them or teaching people to understand them.
Exactly. Definitely.
Lily, has this been helpful at all? You can be honest.
It has been really helpful, yeah. Hearing like, you're a brat, I'm like, okay, I'm a brat. It's official. Danielle and Celeste said I'm a brat, now I know. So it's very validating. And
All right. I do want to also just pile on and commend your bravery. And so I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your story with us, because it will mean so much to so many people who are listening today. And I also want to thank Danielle and Celeste for coming on and sharing your expertise and knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you all so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Before we go, I just want to offer a word of care and encouragement. There is a ton of shame around our sexuality. Shame that can make it really hard to even know what we like and enjoy it. But one of the goals of sex is pleasure. And I do believe that pleasure is a birthright. So the work is in finding our way back to our ability to enjoy pleasure. This means learning how to have safe, sane, and I cannot stress this enough, consensual encounters with other enthusiastically consenting adults and peers. And it also means learning what we want and need in order to feel excited, cared for, turned on, and safe. And then communicating that. And it's a journey. It takes time and patience, but the rewards are worth it. And we believe in you. If you want more advice from Celeste and Danielle, then we'll put a link to the Somatica Institute in the show notes. We'll also link to our previous sex episodes. And if you want to hear me talk more about my own kinks and experiences, you should check out my episode of Death, Sex, and Money. We'll link to all that in the show notes. Do you have a problem that needs solving? Send us a note at howto@slate.com or leave us a voicemail at 646-495-4001, and we might have you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, maybe share this episode with your partner or someone who is looking to learn more about their kinks, because that helps us help more people. How To is produced by Rosie Belson and Kevin Bendis. Joel Meyer is our supervising producer. Merritt Jacob is senior technical director and composed our theme music. Charles Duhigg created the show. Courtney Martin is my co-host, and I'm Carvell Wallace. Thanks for listening.